What happens when the largest freshwater vault on Earth begins to lose what it has preserved for thousands of years? If tonight you could pull the plug on the Great Lakes and watch 20% of the world's surface freshwater disappear, do you think you would see a flat, sandy lake bed? No, you would see a buried continent, shipwrecks standing upright, artifacts frozen in place, stone structures built by humans 9,000 years ago, when these lake beds were dry land. Combined, these 5 lakes hold enough water to flood the continental United States to nearly 10 feet deep. This is not scenery. It is scale beyond intuition. Preservation here is no accident. In Lake Superior, something about the depth, the cold, and the darkness changes the rules. At 1,332 feet, sunlight disappears. The water hovers near 39 degrees. Oxygen thins. Time behaves differently. There is a reason sailors say, Superior never gives up her dead. Elsewhere beneath these lakes, traces of worlds long gone still remain. Prehistoric stone alignments older than Stonehenge, hidden ecosystems that resemble Earth before oxygen filled the sky. For thousands of years, the Great Lakes have functioned like a vault, quiet, cold, undisturbed. But vaults are only secure as long as conditions hold. Over the past few decades, something has shifted. Surfaces are changing. Structures are weakening. What once endured for centuries no longer feels permanent. Water can hide. Water can preserve. But what happens when the balance that made preservation possible begins to move? When the Great Lakes finally reveal what lies beneath, will we be looking at history intact? Or at something already slipping away? Let's explore it together. My dear friends, to understand what lies beneath the Great Lakes, we have to begin not thousands of years ago, but 1 billion years ago. Around 1 billion years in the past, during the Mesoproterozoic era, the North American continent nearly split apart. A massive fracture tore through its center, what geologists now call the mid-continent rift. Magma surged upward from deep within the Earth's mantle, spreading across the surface and cooling into thick volcanic basalt. Those basalt formations still line the bottom of Lake Superior today. If the rifting had continued, North America would have divided in two. An inland sea might have stretched from what is now Minnesota all the way to Alabama. But the rift failed. For reasons scientists still debate, the tearing stopped. The continent healed, but not completely. It left behind a scar in the Earth's crust. That scar became the deep structural basin that would eventually cradle Lake Superior. Fast forward to approximately 5 million years ago, at the beginning of the Pleistocene Ice Age. Now, the shaping force was not fire, but ice. Glaciers more than 1 mile thick advanced across the region. Over tens of thousands of years, they crushed rock, scraped away sediment, deepened river valleys, and carved vast basins into the land. As they advanced and retreated repeatedly, they sculpted the depressions that would become Lake Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. Around 20,000 years ago, during the last glacial maximum, there were no Great Lakes. The entire region lay buried beneath ice. Then the climate warmed. As the glaciers retreated, meltwater poured into the carved basins. The lakes did not form instantly. Their water levels rose and fell dramatically over thousands of years. During certain periods, water levels were hundreds of feet lower than they are today. The land now hidden beneath dark water was once nerded dry ground and people lived there. Lake Superior is the largest, deepest, and coldest of the 5 lakes. Its deepest point reaches approximately 1,332 feet. If you place the Empire State Building on the bottom, roof to foundation, only the antenna would rise above the surface. At that depth, there is no sunlight. The temperature never rises above 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Oxygen is scarce, and what sinks there does not come back up. In most lakes and rivers, when someone drowns, bacteria inside the body produce gases during decomposition. Those gases caused the body to bloat and eventually float to the surface. Lake Superior does not behave that way. The water is too cold for active bacterial growth. Without sufficient gas production, bodies do not float. They sink to the bottom and remain. But something even stranger can happen. In the cold, oxygen-poor environment at the bottom of Lake Superior, a chemical process called saponification may occur. The fats within human tissue react with minerals in the water and transform into a wax-like substance called adipocere, sometimes known as grave wax. This substance is remarkably stable. It can preserve a body for decades, potentially even longer. That is why sailors say, Superior never gives up her dead. In December 1927, the steamship SS Kamloops vanished during a winter storm near Isle Royale in Lake Superior. She was carrying a mixed cargo: tar paper, paper-making machinery, coiled wire, and manufactured goods, and she had 22 people on board. The last sighting placed her steaming toward the island, coated in ice. Then she disappeared. A search began on December 12th and continued until December 22nd, 1927. Nothing was found. For 50 years, the Kamloops became one of the Great Lakes ghost ships, lost without wreckage, without survivors, without answers. Then, in August 1977, sport divers located her. The wreck lay in more than 260 feet of water, northwest of Isle Royale. And what they found was not destruction, but preservation. The ship sat upright on the lake bed. Cargo remained in the holds. Everyday objects, lifesavers, candy, toothpaste, wooden barrels, appeared as though the vessel had sunk yesterday rather than half a century earlier. The cold, dark, oxygen-poor water had sealed the moment in time. But in the engine room, the divers encountered something far more unsettling. Floating in the darkness was the preserved body of a crew member. The extreme cold had triggered saponification. Body fat had transformed into a waxy substance known as adipocere. The remains were pale, almost white. Divers began calling him Old Whitey. When divers entered the compartment, the movement of their fins disturbed the still water. The currents caused the body to drift toward them. Not a haunting, not a ghost, just physics. Still in 39-degree water, 260 feet below the surface, physics is frightening enough. The Kamloops remains in place today. The wreck is protected under Canadian and American law as a grave site. Nothing has been removed. Next, the most famous shipwreck on the Great Lakes is the Edmund Fitzgerald. On November 10th, 1975, the freighter SS Edmund Fitzgerald disappeared beneath the waters of Lake Superior during one of the most violent November storms in history. She was 729 feet long, one of the largest ships ever to sail the inland seas. A steel giant carrying more than 26,000 tons of taconite pellets, processed iron ore, bound for Detroit. The Fitzgerald had departed Superior, Wisconsin on November 9th, navigating worsening weather as gale warnings intensified. By the afternoon of November 10th, winds were reaching 75 knots, and waves were building to heights of 25 feet. At approximately 3:30 p.m., Captain Ernest McSorley radioed that the ship had lost 2 vent covers, a fence railing, and was taking on a list. The vessel had also lost its radar. Hours later, at 7:10 p.m., the nearby freighter Arthur M. Anderson requested an update. McSorley's reply would become the last words ever heard from the Fitzgerald. "We are holding our own." Minutes later, she vanished from radar. No distress signal. No lifeboats deployed. The ship sank so quickly that there was no time. All 29 crew members were lost. No bodies were ever recovered. Today, the wreck rests in approximately 530 feet of water, about 17 miles north-northwest of Whitefish Point, Michigan. When it struck the bottom, the hull broke in two. The bow and stern sections lie roughly 170 feet apart, silent and undisturbed. This site is also protected as a grave site under Canadian law. In 1995, the ship's bell was recovered and replaced with a replica engraved with the names of the 29 men. The Edmund Fitzgerald is more than a shipwreck. It is the defining maritime tragedy of the Great Lakes, a reminder that Superior does not forgive. In 2007, a routine sonar survey in Grand Traverse Bay, Lake Michigan, revealed something no one expected. Dr. Mark Hawley, an underwater archaeologist at Northwestern Michigan College, was scanning the lake bed for shipwrecks inside the Grand Traverse Bay underwater preserve. At roughly 40 feet below the surface, the sonar detected a strange formation, a line of stones stretching for more than 1 mile across the sandy bottom. That detail matters, because the lake bed in that area is sand. Stones do not naturally occur there in long, organized alignments. When divers investigated, they found individual stones ranging in size from a basketball to that of a compact car. At one end of the formation, the stones appeared to curve into a loose, circular pattern. The media quickly labeled it Michigan's Stonehenge. Headlines spread internationally, but the comparison was exaggerated. Dr. Hawley himself has made it clear, this is not a henge. The stones are far smaller than the towering megaliths of England. There is no confirmed monument structure. What exists is a deliberate alignment of stones where stones should not be. And that is far more intriguing. One particular stone drew attention. On its surface appeared a marking that some researchers suggested resembled a mastodon, the elephant-like Ice Age animal that went extinct approximately 10,000 years ago. If that carving were ever confirmed, and it has not been independently verified, it would suggest that the site dates to the end of the last Ice Age, when mastodons still roamed North America. Here's the critical point. Around 9,000 years ago, the bottom of Lake Michigan was not underwater. Water levels were hundreds of feet lower than they are today. The glaciers were still retreating. What is now a cold, submerged landscape was once exposed land. And people lived there. They walked across that ground. They hunted. They organized stone features for purposes we are still trying to understand. The stone alignment in Lake Michigan is not fantasy. It is not mythology. It is evidence, quiet, submerged evidence, that long before ships crossed these waters, long before steel and radar and November storms, human beings stood where fish swim today. Similar rock structures have been found in nearby Lake Huron, and those structures have been studied more thoroughly. About 120 feet below the surface lies a limestone ridge known as the Alpena Amberley Ridge. Today it is submerged and silent. But roughly 9,000 years ago, it was not underwater at all. It was dry land, a natural land bridge connecting what is now Michigan to what is now Ontario. And it was alive with movement. At the end of the last Ice Age, caribou migrated across that exposed corridor in large numbers. Where animals move predictably, human intelligence follows. In 2014, a research team led by anthropologist John O'Shea from the University of Michigan announced a discovery that transformed our understanding of prehistoric life in the Great Lakes region. Using sonar mapping and underwater archaeology, they identified dozens of human-built stone structures spread across an area roughly the size of a football field. The most striking feature is known as the Drop 45 Drive Lane. It consists of two parallel lines of stones stretching across the ancient landscape, guiding animals toward a cul-de-sac, a dead-end trap lined with natural cobblestones. Hunters would have concealed themselves behind stone blinds, waiting for migrating caribou to be funneled into a confined kill zone. This was not random placement. It required planning, cooperation, deep knowledge of animal behavior. Artifacts recovered from the site, including stone tools, confirm an age of approximately 9,000 years, making these hunting structures more than 4,000 years older than Stonehenge. What rests beneath Lake Huron is not speculation. It is a preserved moment of strategy, survival, and community, a prehistoric landscape frozen in time. Long before steel ships crossed these waters, human beings engineered the land itself, and the lake rose quietly over their world, sealing it beneath the surface. In 2002, archaeologists working with the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary were surveying the lake bed for shipwrecks when their instruments detected unusual pockets of water. What they found were underwater sinkholes, geological depressions formed in a limestone foundation more than 400 million years old, a remnant of an ancient seabed from a time when saltwater oceans covered this region. Some of these sinkholes are more than 300 feet across and reach depths of up to 60 feet. But their true significance is not their size. It is their chemistry. The water inside these sinkholes is radically different from the surrounding lake. It is rich in sulfur, severely low in oxygen, and dense with dissolved minerals. Normal lake life cannot survive in these conditions. Fish avoid the areas. Most organisms perish. Yet life exists there. When researchers lowered remotely operated vehicles into the sinkholes, they discovered vast microbial mats coating the bottom. Brilliant purple cyanobacteria spread across the surface like living paint. Interwoven among them were pale, almost ghostly white filamentous microbes that consume sulfur. What makes these organisms extraordinary is not just their resilience, but their ancestry. The environmental conditions inside these sinkholes closely resemble those of Earth's oceans approximately 2.5 to 3 billion years ago, long before oxygen dominated the atmosphere. In the early history of our planet, there was no breathable air. Life depended on chemical energy, not oxygen. These microbes in Lake Huron still carry that ancient capability. During daylight hours, the purple cyanobacteria rise toward available light and perform photosynthesis, splitting water molecules and releasing oxygen, much like modern plants. But when night falls and light disappears, the ecosystem shifts. The white sulfur-eating bacteria move to the surface, metabolizing sulfur compounds instead of oxygen. It is a daily transformation, led by a biological choreography that mirrors processes from Earth's primordial past. Oxygen-rich life as we know it would not exist without ancient microbes like these. Billions of years ago, cyanobacteria gradually filled Earth's atmosphere with oxygen, paving the way for complex organisms, including us. And here, in the cold depths of Lake Huron, that evolutionary memory survives. Scientists now study these sinkholes as analog environments, natural laboratories for understanding how life might exist beyond Earth. The icy moons Europa and Enceladus are believed to harbor subsurface oceans beneath their frozen crusts. Those oceans may be dark, oxygen-poor, and chemically driven, conditions strikingly similar to what exists in these sinkholes. In other words, the key to understanding alien ecosystems may lie beneath the waters of the Great Lakes. What appears from the shoreline to be an ordinary inland sea contains a biological time capsule, a window into Earth. Before oxygen, before animals, before forests. Lake Huron does not only preserve shipwrecks and stone tools, it preserves the chemistry of early Earth itself. Lake Erie is the shallowest of the Great Lakes and the most deceptive. Its average depth is only 62 feet. Its deepest point reaches just 210 feet. Compared to Superior's 1,332-foot abyss, Erie seems almost modest, manageable, safer. It is not. Despite its limited depth, Lake Erie contains the highest concentration of shipwrecks per square mile of any of the Great Lakes. According to the Great Lakes Historical Society, at least 1,500 vessels have been lost here. Some estimates push that number closer to 2,000. That is more than in Lake Superior, even though Superior is vastly deeper and known for more extreme weather. The The reason is physics. In deep water, waves travel in long, rolling swells. Their energy is distributed across a greater vertical column. But in shallow water, that energy has nowhere to go. It compresses. The waves become steeper, choppier, and more closely spaced. Lake Erie can shift from calm to chaos in minutes. Storm systems crossing the basin generate short-period waves, with crests separated by only a few seconds. These are not the slow, lifting swells of the open ocean. These waves strike hard and fast, sometimes from multiple directions at once. A researcher who studies Great Lakes shipwrecks described it bluntly. One moment the water can be as calm as a pond, and within minutes, vertical walls of water can be slamming into a vessel seconds apart. Shallowness makes the violence worse. Now add geography. Extending into the lake from the Canadian shoreline is a massive underwater sand formation known as Long Point. It projects far into the basin like a hook. For centuries, it has acted as a natural trap. Ships traveling along the northern shore could be driven toward it by storms, winds pinning them against a lee shore with little room to maneuver. Historical records indicate that the waters around Long Point have claimed more than 300 vessels, wooden schooners, freighters, fishing tugs, victims of grounding, storm surge, and sudden weather shifts. Even today, after powerful storms, fragments of old wrecks sometimes reappear along the beaches, ribs and planks exposed briefly before being buried again by sand. Yet Erie preserves what it destroys. Its lake bed is not rock. It is thick, silty mud. When a ship sinks here, it does not shatter against stone. It settles into sediment. The mud closes over hulls like a blanket, sealing out oxygen and slowing decay. Wooden vessels lost in the 1800s have been discovered with hull structures intact, cargo undisturbed, even traces of paint still visible. The same shallow conditions that create violent waves also create powerful preservation. But Lake Erie faces a different threat now, one not born of wind or storm. Every summer, its central basin develops hypoxia, a region where oxygen levels drop so low that most life cannot survive. The cause is largely agricultural runoff. Fertilizers, rich in phosphorus, wash into the lake from farms in Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. That phosphorus fuels massive algal blooms on the surface. When the algae die, they sink. As bacteria decompose them, they consume enormous amounts of oxygen. In the deeper central basin where water layers do not easily mix, oxygen can fall to zero. Fish can swim away. Mussels and bottom-dwelling organisms cannot. In 2012, a strong wind event pushed hypoxic water from the central basin toward the northern shoreline between Erie and Port Stanley. Tens of thousands of fish died along a 40-kilometer stretch of coast. They had been trapped between oxygen-depleted water and the shore with nowhere to escape. Lake Erie is shallow. It is violent. It is crowded with wrecks. And now it is struggling with a modern imbalance that threatens both its ecosystem and its history. Shallow does not mean safe. In Lake Erie, shallow means unstable. On the night of August 8, 1813, during the War of 1812, 2 American warships were patrolling Lake Ontario, the Hamilton and the Scourge. Both had originally been merchant schooners, later converted for military service and armed with heavy cannons. Those modifications made them powerful and dangerously top-heavy. Just after midnight, a sudden squall swept across the lake. The storm struck fast and without warning. The added weight of the cannons and military equipment proved catastrophic. Both vessels capsized almost immediately. At least 53 men were thrown into the dark water. Only 16 survived. The ships vanished. For 160 years, no one knew where they lay. Then, in 1973, an amateur underwater archaeologist named Daniel Nelson, a dentist from St. Catharines, Ontario, located them using early sonar equipment. What he found stunned professionals and historians alike. The Hamilton and the Scourge were resting upright on the lake floor in approximately 300 feet of water, about 1,500 feet apart. They had not shattered. They had not collapsed. They appeared frozen in time. Their masts still stand. Their cannons remain mounted on deck, aimed outward as if still ready for battle. Cannonballs lie stacked in neat piles. Boarding pikes and cutlasses rest in their racks. Personal belongings remain scattered where they fell on that August night in 1813, and the crews are still there. Skeletal remains have been observed on and around both wrecks. These ships are war graves protected under Canadian and Ontario law. Diving requires special permits. Touching anything is prohibited. They are not replicas. They are not reconstructions. They are the only complete War of 1812 warships in existence anywhere in the world. Other vessels from that conflict survive only as fragments or archaeological debris. But beneath Lake Ontario, in cold, oxygen-poor water, the Hamilton and the Scourge remain intact, a preserved battlefield beneath the surface. 2 ships, 1 storm, 2 centuries of silence. But they are in danger. And now, like every other shipwreck in the lower Great Lakes, they face a new threat. If the Great Lakes were drained today, the bottom would look fuzzy. Every hard surface, rocks, shipwrecks, pipes, docks, even downed aircraft, is coated in billions upon billions of quagga mussels. These small fingernail-sized mollusks are not native to North America. They originated in the Caspian and Black Sea region of Eastern Europe. They arrived in the Great Lakes in the late 1980s, transported unintentionally in the ballast water of transoceanic cargo ships. Since then, they have spread relentlessly. The scale is almost beyond comprehension. In Lake Michigan alone, scientists estimate there are approximately 450 trillion quagga mussels. Not million, not billions, trillions. Collectively, they are capable of filtering the entire volume of the lake, roughly once every 2 weeks. On the surface, clearer water might sound like good news. It is not. Quagga mussels are extraordinarily efficient filter feeders. Each individual can filter about a liter of water per day, removing microscopic organisms, especially phytoplankton, the foundation of the aquatic food web. Multiply that by hundreds of trillions, and the effect becomes ecosystem-wide. The lakes have become dramatically clearer over the past generation. Sunlight now penetrates deeper into the water column. But that clarity comes at a cost. The altered light and nutrient balance disrupt habitats that evolved under murkier conditions. Species that depended on suspended particles for cover are suddenly exposed. More critically, when phytoplankton populations decline, zooplankton populations fall. When zooplankton decrease, small fish lose their primary food source. When small fish decline, larger predatory fish, including commercially valuable species such as whitefish, begin to collapse. The food web unravels from the bottom up, and the damage does not stop with biology. Every historic shipwreck in the lower four Great Lakes, Erie, Huron, Michigan, and Ontario, is now encrusted with quagga mussels. The mussels stack upon themselves in thick layers, obscuring nameplates, carvings, and fine construction details that survived for centuries. When divers attempt to remove them, they often peel away fragile wood along with the shells. The physical burden alone is devastating. Millions of mussels add enormous weight to already weakened hulls and deck structures, accelerating structural failure. Bulkheads collapse, walls cave in. Ships that stood upright for 100 years are disintegrating within decades. For wooden vessels, the mussels burrow into the timber, compromising its integrity. For iron and steel wrecks, the threat is chemical as well as physical. Quagga mussels produce metabolic byproducts, including acidic compounds, that accelerate corrosion. The accumulation of carbon dioxide and waste material further alters the microenvironment around metal surfaces, increasing rust and decay. Even aircraft wreckage from the mid-20th century, once preserved in cold freshwater, is now emerging from the lakebed looking like Swiss cheese, perforated, weakened, destabilized. Scientists have experimented with small-scale removal in limited reef areas, but across a system this vast, there is no practical method to eliminate or meaningfully control the population. The mussels reproduce rapidly, attach firmly, and spread continuously. Lake Superior has so far been largely spared, likely due to its colder, calcium-poor water. But recent detections near Isle Royale and in Nipigon Bay suggest even that protection may not last. For centuries, the Great Lakes preserved history. Cold water, depth, and darkness acted as guardians. Now an invasive species no larger than your thumbnail is dismantling that preservation in real time. What survived storms, ice, and 200 years of silence is being undone in a single human lifetime? The vault is still there, but it is no longer secure. The Great Lakes are not just bodies of water. Within them lies nearly 10,000 years of human history, from prehistoric hunting drive lanes built when lake beds were dry land, to War of 1812, warships resting upright in 300 feet of water, to steel freighters like the 729-foot Edmund Fitzgerald, lost in living memory. Beneath that human record lies something older still, approximately 2.5 billion years of biological history, preserved in the sinkholes of Lake Huron, where microbial life continues to function in conditions that mirror the chemistry of early Earth. High sulfur, low oxygen, a world before complex life. And beneath even that rests nearly 1 billion years of geological history, the scar of the mid-continent rift, where North America nearly tore itself apart, leaving behind volcanic basalt formations that now line the bottom of Lake Superior? 10,000 years? 2.5 billion years? 1 billion years? Layer upon layer of time, sealed beneath cold, dark water. For centuries, those conditions, depth, low temperature, limited oxygen, acted as guardians. They slowed decay. They preserved wood, steel, bone, and stone. They made the bottom of the lakes feel permanent. But permanence was an illusion. Since the late 1980s, invasive quagga mussels have spread across the lower 4 lakes, now numbering in the trillions, an estimated 450 trillion in Lake Michigan alone, filtering entire lake volumes in roughly 2 weeks, altering ecosystems and accelerating the decay of historic wrecks. Climate change is warming surface waters, shifting chemistry, and potentially expanding habitats for species that do not belong. Agricultural runoff continues to trigger algal blooms and seasonal hypoxic dead zones, such as the mass fish die-off along a 40-kilometer stretch of Lake Erie's shoreline in 2012. The vault is not empty. It is being breached. The lake bed was once considered eternal, a place where time slowed, where history rested undisturbed. It is no longer immutable. What was preserved for centuries is now changing within decades. And the question is no longer what lies at the bottom of the Great Lakes. The question is how much of it will remain. Finally, thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. Your time here means a great deal to me. If this story moved you, please consider liking, sharing, and following the channel for future episodes. And if you have a personal story about a lighthouse, a storm, or time on these waters, I would truly love to read it. Share it in the comments. I'll see you in the next episode.